Let me take you through the process that I undertook to turn a simple wooden goblet like this into an animal inspired one like this one. Hey guys, recently the Racka lads asked me to build them a prop for an upcoming skit that they've got where they turn their dog into a goblet, similar to what Ron and Harry did to Ron's rat in one of the Harry Potter films. So for this project, all you're going to need is a goblet. I managed to pick up this wooden cup for about $1 at a local Goodwill store. I'm going to use some common kitchen aluminium, some masking tape, some fur, a marker, some scissors, some knife, and I'm going to use a spray adhesive. I'm going to be using the 3M Super 77 spray adhesive. I really love this stuff for all sorts of fabrication work. It's really good for foam smithing, doing things like armour, all sorts of things. I highly recommend it. So to begin with, I just basically trimmed up my aluminium to make it into more manageable sizes. With the aluminium, I'm basically using this to create a template of the actual cup itself. So to begin with, just wrapping the entire cup in aluminium. The aluminium does a really good job of getting general shape, and I use this to do armour and all sorts of things. Once the aluminium's on, cover the whole surface in masking tape. Once the whole masking tape's on, this is what's actually going to create the template itself. It's important you cover all the areas. It doesn't have to be too flash hot, but it does need to be nice and smooth. Once I've done that, I'm going to mark out the entire area and where I want to essentially separate those bits of the template. And I've got all those registration lines on there to help me put it all back together once I cut out the fur and start sticking it onto the cup. So using a sharp knife will cut right through the aluminium and the masking tape itself. I've got here a surgical scalpel, but you don't have to use that. Just a standard box cutter will certainly do the job, or a good pair of scissors will certainly trim up things as need be. Once I've got the mask off, I'm going to put some pleats into the actual little template bits there so that I can get it to sit flat from where those curved surfaces are. If you've done this right, you can get away with using just one of the 4 parts, which is what I ended up doing. So to make it easier to use, I transferred the template onto a piece of card. This is just an old manila folder I had laying around. From there, cut it out, trim it down so you've got just the card itself, and then that'll be good to easily transfer your template onto the fabric. So on the back of the fabric, I'm just stenciling this out with my marker, getting the 4 sides of the pieces that I'll need, and then trimming it down with a scalpel and pair of scissors to get the individual sections. So as you can see, I'm going to get all the fur to hang down sideways, and just using the spray adhesive there. So just using spray adhesive, spray the back of the fur, and then that'll make it nice and easy. It sticks really well to just about anything. Give it a couple of seconds to tack off, and then it'll stick down, and it sticks really well to just about any surface. So with any areas where I've got the fur hanging over the edge, I'm just going to cover the bits of fur so they're not all of the fur gets glued down, and I just get the adhesive onto the areas that I want. So wrap around the little stalk there of the cup, and then I'm good to cover the rest of the actual cup itself. So for the actual tail of this cup, I'm just getting a long rectangular piece, and I'm going to cut out the end of it so it's got kind of like the tip of a leaf, bit of spray on the back of it, and then I started to glue the 2 sides together and realized it wasn't going to hold its shape well enough. So I got a piece of clear tubing. This is just aquarium tubing I got from the local hardware store, and just put that in there so that the tail would hold its shape and it stood up reasonably well. Stuck a piece of fur under where the tail was going to go, and then I was able to stick the tail on with just another bit of the spray adhesive just above that piece that I just put on there, and it held the shape and it worked out really well. And then just in sections as per my template, I'm just going to glue on little bits of fur here and there to cover the rest of the cup, going over the lip and into the inside of the cup, so I cover all of the exposed surface of the timber. Wherever my pieces join, I'm just matting the fur up a little bit so you don't have that cut line of the fur, and occasionally just using a comb will also help to blend that edge a little bit more. Once I've got some colour on there as well, it also helped to kind of tie it all in together. So once I've got the tail on, I'm just going to keep laying on these bits of fur until the entire cup is nice and covered. So again, just brushing out the seams where the two bits of the fur overlap one another so that they more have a better join, so it's not as noticeable that there's a cut there. And the dog that this is actually going to be transformed from is a slightly white and brown dog, so just adding a bit of brown colouring to the fur itself. And finally, I just added a bit of really light gauge fishing wire to the tail, and there you go.